everyone, I hope you're all really well. In this video I'm going to be doing a paint and a chat, and I will be showing you my process on this painting. I already had a bit of a crazy time trying to set this up and I've already got paint all over me. I actually was going to be showing you my finished process or finishing process of a still life that I was working on. However, that kind of hasn't happened because I'm not too sure about how I feel about my still life at the moment. So essentially I was trying to go back into doing more kind of traditional art for a little while and exploring that ancient, in my case, experience that I used to have, which was to work on still life, and it's something that I haven't done for quite some time. So I was getting back into that. However, I'm not too sure how successful my painting has been, so I haven't filmed the video on it yet. So instead I thought I would show you this painting, which I've literally just started. So it's on the very kind of beginning stages, and so I don't know whether that will be interesting. However, maybe I'll make like 2 videos, a part 1 and then obviously a part 2, showing you what the finished result is. So I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, and I will be telling you also what I've been up to, which is having some pretty interesting results on trying to modify my setup in terms of painting and working on my art. I've been trying to work more on an easel as opposed to on a desk, which is what I have done for quite some time. And I always used to really like working on a desk because you could sit and really review your work sort of close up. However, I do actually think that, at least with me, when I can see my art in front of me like that, it does seem to have a better effect on the final artwork. So I've been trying to work more on easels. The only problem is my easel is absolutely awful. It's rubbish. I don't know if I've ever, I know I have explained about it before. In case you have not heard about it or are new to my channel, you will you will not know that my easel is basically one of those really cheap, they're very cheap easel that I bought when I was studying, and I really thought, oh, I'll get an easel because I can be all really artistic. But I didn't think that I would ever end up doing art in the future. I just thought, well, I'll just have it for now, and then when I kind of progress, perhaps if I do progress, then I will buy a really nice fancy one. But that time actually never really came, because every time I tried to look for an easel, I would sit down on the internet, and this is the problem with having internet shopping. Like, I know that internet shopping is absolutely amazing, but when you are faced with basically hundreds of choices when it comes to easels, you just end up spending your entire life, or at least I do, your entire life just sitting there like clicking through them going, okay, maybe that one looks good, and I know maybe that one looks good. And also, if you don't know anything about easels, trust me, you don't want to know, but if you don't know about them, they are all in different categories. So you can have, believe it or not, even I myself didn't know this until I started researching them. I knew about a couple of the categories, but I didn't know to the extent of different categories you can get. And you can have the I believe it's the H series or the H type, which, there's fireworks in the background, so forgive me. There's an H category where it's essentially, I believe it's much sturdier and they have more legs. 4 legs, I think. Although I swear I saw ones that had even more legs than that. They're 4 legs, and they're the heavier, very kind of durable and strong ones. And those are the ones that are really kind of heavy duty. However, you can get also an A type, like an A category, which is the 3 legs. And that's what I have right now, but they're really 3 like spindly legs, obviously with like the cheapest wood possible. So if you literally, whenever I lean on my painting, because this painting is a little bit larger, there is always a tendency for the easel to shake and move around, do a little dance, and then like it's going to collapse or something. And it actually does collapse. It's not like it's going to collapse, it does collapse. So those are the other ones, but if you get one with a really nice wood and a good finish, then it won't just fall over. So I started to think about maybe those, because those are not as expensive as the H ones. The H ones tend to be like the really expensive ones, and plus they're very heavy and I need to be able to move my easel around. And then there's another series which is one that is a box. I believe it's the French box ones, that they're actually a box and then they convert into an easel, and those are amazing for plein air, which is painting outside. And I really want to get back into painting outside more, so I kept thinking maybe I should get one of those. And then that was a whole like huge list of options there. And then there are also the desk easels, which are obviously for a desk, and you just can fold them up, and then they have compartments, and some of them come with pallets and some of them come with extra arms and detachable things. And so it was so confusing, and I spent my entire life sitting trying to work out which easel to get. And it was at that point that I realised that I didn't care anymore, and I just lost it and thought I'm just going to buy one of them. And I don't know what happened then. I think I did buy one, but I'm not entirely sure. Like a few weeks ago I thought I'd bought one paint, and then it turned out that the order hadn't even gone through, and I was waiting for my paint thinking, I wonder why my paint isn't here. And then it actually had never gone through. So luckily I didn't call the art shop and say, where is my paint? Because that would have obviously been embarrassing. But so if you ever think that you might have ordered something and you haven't, then check your emails. So I'm just going to start painting here, and I was working a bit on, the other slightly annoying thing is this is slightly out of frame, so I really want to work on this section, which is going to be the seafoam, because I quite like doing those little patterns. But yeah, I'll begin with painting. I will try and commentate, and you'll see me moving in and out as I'm working. Here I have a bit of a messy palette setup because I actually obviously was working on this earlier, and so I will try and go through some of the colours that I'm using. Again, I really apologise if the quality of this video is quite odd or bad. Unfortunately, there's something quite weird with my phone, in the sense that whenever I record on it, the sound comes out really strange, and every time I use the letter S, it sounds like I'm hissing. So I know it's not my imagination. It's something to do with the sound on my phone. So I really do apologise. There's no snake around, or at least the snake, it's me. So I'm going to start working on some of the waves, and incidentally I'm working on linen, and linen is absolutely amazing. It's my favourite preferred surface, although I do also really love wood as well. What's really interesting about it is that quite often initially you will have some gaps. If you're using a lot of medium and you are spreading out your paint, you might have gaps on your painting, but it's absolutely fine, because with linen, at least in my case, I tend to, or in any painting actually, I tend to build up the layers. If I was painting in one go, so alla prima, I would have laid down the paint much thicker, and that's just to cover the area to make sure there are no sort of gapping. So I just thought I'd say that just in case you wanted to try out linen and you weren't sure about the texture. It is a very textured surface, but it's like it takes a little bit of getting used to, for sure. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But once you do get used to it, it is an incredible feeling, at least in my humble opinion. And so I'm going to be just painting some of the waves, just trying to really blend those colours together. And the whole concept, the idea that I had was, it wasn't too complex actually. It was just because this boat, because this galleon, I'll get there in the end, because this galleon is heading into shore, I just really liked the idea of a ship that has been away for some time, but that it was in the past, so hundreds of years ago, maybe 200 years ago. I think I'm going to try 200 years. I think 200 years ago. It's coming into sea, coming into shore, and that experience of being away for so long and finally reaching home. And I just really liked that concept of really missing, I imagine it really missing walking on land. I imagine sailors, at least this is something for me whenever I used to think about sailing on the sea for long amounts of time, that they must really not only miss their families, but also the sensation of walking on dry land. And it's something that you take for granted if you are not at sea. Of course, there are many people who love sailing, but this is really from the perspective of people who have to go to sea for whatever reason. Maybe they have to go to deliver something. Perhaps this was Amazon in the olden days, via, when they have to deliver an easel or something, they have to go via the sea, the scenic route. So I don't know whether you can see the gaps in the linen, but they are there when you go very close up to the canvas. So it's just a little bit different from working on wood, for example, because with wood the surface is so smooth that you can actually cover the area with a thinner layer, whereas this tends to need either a really thick layer or several layers on top, several thin layers, just to really cover that surface. And so I'm going for thinner layers here. I'm using a very, very soft brush because this tends to spread the paint out nicely, but also, again, for blending, it really does work well just to blend those kind of, with water, you really want to blend so seamlessly, so it really looks like water's merging into each other, and you don't want sort of big lumps of colour that are separated. It all has to merge together beautifully, and so you get that real sense of flow. And it's what's so beautiful about painting water. You can really get lost in just creating those wonderful sweeping motions and really feeling relaxed, I guess. It is relaxed. It's very relaxing painting water. It's not quite so easy. I don't ever find it that easy to actually paint the ship portion, because I always tend to paint them the same, and I'm trying to mix up my ship design so that they look different, because otherwise all my ships tend to look like they were made by the same individual, like they were made in this sort of factory or something, made all identical. It's always a bit of trouble actually when you are painting objects from the imagination. And whilst I can look at references for painting ships, there's always this really nice element of imagining what it would look like, because you really kind of can access the imagination when you think about old ships. But of course, if you are stuck, as I tend to be sometimes, looking at some copyright free images, or actually going to see if you can find a ship somewhere, again, this is more use. Copyright free images tend to be more useful for this type of thing, because if you go to the sea, quite often you won't see a ship that is like this, because obviously they're very old fashioned. So you might see some very modern ships. So that's when the good old copyright free images can help you along in case you're stuck. So I sort of tend to know the basic shape that I want in my mind. Sometimes I look at help for the says that bit has gone totally wrong. I might fix that in post-production. I might fix that later, because I don't know what's happened there. It's just this particular angle, because I have to, whenever I'm filming, get obviously my face and this all in together at the same in the same frame. So it's actually my arm is it looks like I've got this gigantic arm. I wish I did have a gigantic arm. I think of all the gigantic things an arm would be useful. It's kind of an odd conversation all of a sudden, conversation with you guys. So you can do this thing where if you're painting in the distance, you want to add lighter colours, so that This actually does work really, really well in sea scenes, and I'll tell you why, because quite often you'll get a misty, oops, you'll get it's like the completely wrong colour. I actually forgot to put turquoise, radiant turquoise on my palette, and it's farther over there, so I might guess it in a second. Because with the sea like this, you can imagine a lot of mist, and so having everything misty in the distance, you could even add some hills and some misty images of land far away, and so you can be as creative as you like to create your mystical land. Oh, again, wrong colour. I have a terrible feeling. I should really get an overall, but you know, this is what you call ruining your clothes in style, or not, depending on which way you look at it. I should have cleaned my brush at this point, so if everything starts to look a little bit terrible, I'm going to clean my brush on my palette. This is, as you can see, I'm a real professional. You can actually do this. Obviously, if you don't have anything close at hand, just clean it on here. Ideally, though, you really do want to clean it with a tissue. I'm using the most disgusting rag at the moment because I was too lazy to stand up and get a tissue. Kitchen towel is probably the best. You can use if you use the really thick ones, they tend to be the best because they really get off all the paint without the paint kind of soaking through them. However, you can get away with using quite flimsy ones with this particular paint, which is Gamblin, because Gamblin tends to be quite a lot drier, so you don't have as many problems as long as you're using a fairly dryish medium. Does that make sense? Probably not, but you know what I mean. Or maybe you don't. I will try to explain things more succinctly in my next video. These sound like promises that will never be fulfilled. And so I'm doing quite a lot of the water here, so I will go back when I'm going towards the end of this painting, when I'm finishing the painting, I will go back onto the boat, so so that I can create a stronger shape, because again, there are a lot of gaps in the linen at the moment that you can see of the linen. I actually do quite like that effect, but obviously you don't want to make it look as though you have left tons of gaps. I feel like it's probably better to try and fill them in as much as possible if you're selling your work, or if you want to add it to your portfolio. Then it does look a little bit better if you tend to fill them in. If you leave a lot of gaps, sometimes it just looks a bit like you've not spent very much time on it, you've sort of worked on it quite quickly. Again, it really does depend though if your work lends itself to that. So sometimes abstract artists do like to leave gaps and things, and that does look good. So yeah, it all depends on the human. And as you can know, you're probably thinking, why is the cloud green? But funnily enough, sometimes when you echo the colours down from the sea into the sky, believe it or not, sometimes it does look quite good. I'm not saying all the time, because obviously you don't want to do that too much, then it looks a little bit too contrived, but sometimes it does work quite interestingly if you allow yourself to experiment with reflecting some of the lower portion with the upper portion. Sometimes a hint of those colours can look good. It can add an interesting uniformity and an interesting style. There is actually a sunset sort of here. I really do genuinely need to wipe my brush because I'm going to make the sky green. There is a sunset there, and I will be elaborating on it. But at the moment, because my brush is really clogged up with green, I might not get to it. This is my absolute favourite colour of all time. I had mentioned it before. I mentioned it in my last video, I believe. This colour is manganese blue hue, I believe. And I have heard just recently that it was discontinued, and so Gamblin made their own version of it. And it's just so incredible. So you can't actually find this in many brands. But I think I've got paint on my sleeve. Oh no, a miracle! I didn't! Oh, it's a good day. So I believe you can find it in maybe one or two other brands, but it's definitely not a common one. And so I think that Gamblin does it really beautifully, and also it's not that expensive. I think it's similar price to their other colours. So if you like to paint seas like I do, you might want to give it a go. It is basically it's super transparent if you add medium to it, but it has such a beautiful, like almost glistening hint of colour. It's very subtle, but it's so unique. I have not found a colour that is like this ever anywhere on earth. I wonder if other colours were made like this. I just think it would be so amazing if they were, but there just isn't. I don't think I've ever discovered a colour that's similar to this, where they have that ability to thin out so much and yet retain this very like almost shimmering colour. It's just, yeah, really unique and just amazing. And there are some other colours. I'm planning to do a video about my favourite colours. Let me know if that's something that you would like to see. And also let me know if it's something that you wouldn't like to see. Because you never know. And so I'm just sort of filling in the sky here. And the clouds. I don't really need to worry too much about this element, because you can sort of see what colours you sort of know when you start painting regularly, which I'm sure most of you, or many of you do. And you sort of know which colours go together well and which colours can make a really interesting and magical sky. So I mean, that's the sky for now, and a little bit of the water. I'm obviously going to go back and I will start to significantly blend so that I can make sure that I get that lovely soft look. Something that I've been going for quite a bit in my paintings recently, and I think it sort of lends itself to that magical feeling that I do like, sort of shimmering but soft feeling. And I did want to make this, at first I did want to do a really wild sea, and I think I will do one soon, but then as I was painting it I was just really enjoying this tranquil feeling, and I just felt that it really lent itself to kind of coming home after the rocky seas to a very tranquil and peaceful beach. So anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this little painting demo. I'm not sure that I did that much, but I do think that it's going in the right direction anyway. And I will hopefully make either a part 2, or I'll be back with another type of painting that's probably, it'll be some magical hopefully magical scene that that I tend to paint. So thank you so much for watching and joining me through this little ramble. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, and take care, and I'll see you very soon.